4 different scenarios of passing data from the view to the controller. In this video, not only will we see how to do it, but also when to do it. All right, let's jump right in. Number 1. Using form post method. Imagine you're building a web app where users need to fill out a registration form, feedback form, job application form, or any type of form. You need to pass the data that is filled out by users from the view to the controller. So how do you do this? Yes, form post method. In the view, wrap the inputs into a form. Don't forget the submit button too. Talking about form submission, here's some knowledge about it. Firstly, the submit button must be placed inside the form. If the button is outside the form, it will not trigger the form submission unless you explicitly associate it with the form using the form attribute like this. If you have multiple submit buttons in a form and each button needs to trigger different action methods, you can specify the form action like this. Lastly, if a form has multiple submit buttons, pressing the Enter key will usually trigger the first submit button. If there are only some inputs and no submit button, pressing Enter will submit the form automatically as long as the form has a valid action and method. Okay, so when the user clicks the submit button, it will pass the data to the submit form action in the home controller. This is how it looks. There is an HTTP post attribute on it, and it will accept the name value from the form just now. Okay, now imagine there are 10 plus fields in the form. In the controller, we'll need to add a lot of parameters here. This is definitely not a good choice. So, instead of this, we can bind the form fields to a view model. Then, in the view, specify the view model on top and change the input name to ASP4. In the controller, instead of 10 plus parameters, change to use the view model. This makes everything cleaner and easier to manage. Next, in a web app, besides a form, we will also have a link that takes the user to a specific page, like a product detail page or a user detail page. This is a link for product 1. This is a link for product 2. When we click the link for product 1, we want to grab data for product 1, and when we click the link for product 2, we want to grab data for product 2. But how do we do this? Yes, use route parameters or query strings. This example means that when you click on it, we'll go to the home controller product details action method with the ID. Then, based on the ID, we can get its data from the database. Not only ID, we can also add more parameters like this. If you don't want to use ASP route, you can also do this. By the way, if you want to explore more about routing, feel free to check out this video. Forms are great, but sometimes you don't want to reload the whole page. That's where AJAX comes in. For example, you have a username input field and want to check if the username is available without submitting the form. This is the AJAX method. And this is the JavaScript fetch method. Both will pass data to the home controller submit username method, but will not reload the page. What are some real-world scenarios that we don't want the page to reload? For example, the add to cart feature. Imagine shopping online, and every time you add something to your cart, the whole page refreshes. Super annoying, right? So we want users to keep browsing and adding items to their cart without interruptions. Clicking Add to Cart will send the product ID data to the controller using AJAX and then update the cart count instantly without loading the page. So, use AJAX when you want to send or retrieve data between the view and controller and at the same time prevent page reload. That's a wrap. These are the 4 scenarios we cover in this video. What other methods do you use to pass data from the view to the controller? Let me know in the comments. See you in the next video.